in the morning. And if we're ready to go, yes, then we'll start the more official part. So first, let me introduce myself and my colleague slash boss. So maybe you want to, yeah, kind of. I have three of them. So
I'm not boss. I'm moral support.
Yeah, maybe.
And also, I'm the French higher education attaché in Washington, and I supervise our higher education policy at the federal level.
Yeah, and one of the federal strategic levels is our programs for diversity and inclusion, and so we decided to start a program called Community College in France, and I'm in charge of this program and trying to take it and trying to make it grow. And my name is Katrin Gebhard, and I'm based in New York, and I work for the French Embassy. So let's have a look at what this program is. Sorry for not talking into the microphone, I forgot about that. So, what is community college in France? All this kind of happened since we're French Embassy, there was a little bit of political context. The political context is that there's been some talks between the French Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the State Department and some other stakeholders. In 2014 they started, and they were looking at, hey, what's happening in terms of mobility, in terms of connections between France and the US. Like some years later, let's fast forward this part, they came to the point where they said, okay, actually we do have some great student mobility, but actually we could do more because we're missing out on a lot of students. We're having a not so diverse mobility, and actually having more diverse students and diversifying not only the profile of the student, but also diversifying the types of mobility will help us to increase student mobility. And so in 2017, we started working with community colleges, with CCID, and creating this program, Community College in France. And we have been working for this program not only with CCID, but also with different community colleges, and talking a lot to them, like, what makes sense for you? What is it? Why, like, what do you need to send students abroad? We know there are barriers. We know that it's not always easy for community college students to go abroad. There are financial issues. There are different kinds of issues. And so we started thinking about programs, and we've done this a lot with our colleagues from a network of engineering schools and Placé, because one of the things we've considered also in the beginning was actually there wasn't a lot of mobility in the STEM field, and that was another barrier we wanted to tackle. So in the end, we came along with two things: the boot camps we're talking about today, and then there's a second part, the post-associate's degree, where we allow students to go abroad for a longer time. I'm not going to go deeper in the post-associate's degree today. Basically, we're bringing a community college student who has gotten a degree, an associate's degree, can apply for this program, and then we bring it to the Masters of Engineering. And it's in 4 years. It's much more cost efficient than what he would get as an education here, but the quality is at least as good. And there is another session on this today at 10 a.m. If you want to have a look at it, more deep dive. But let's go back to the boot camps. That was the post-associate's degree I already mentioned. And so our boot camps, basically what we do for the boot camps each year, we launch a call for applications to French institutions. We say, hey, who wants to work with community colleges? And in autumn, we got 20 of them applying to us, giving us a project and saying, this is what we want to do. So 20 institutions in France not only thought, hey, it's nice to work with community colleges, but they actually did the job of applying and giving down a proposal. We couldn't do 20 of them. We would have liked, because a lot of those proposals were very good. But we selected 4 cities of them, and we're having a 5th one because it's a very special cooperation between Los Angeles and Paris that I will go more into detail. The idea behind those boot camps is to make them cost efficient, because we know that's one of the issues for community colleges. So we bring down the cost to $1,000 per program. Those $1,000 include tuition, they include housing, they include 3 meals per day, they include cultural visits, local transportation costs. So basically everything you can think of, apart from I need a new t-shirt and I want a snack at 4 p.m. anything you could think of. And what was very important for us as well was also to think about, okay, cost efficient is nice, but of course you want some quality. So to get more into quality, we have been looking, what we consider was community colleges was actually we want some academic content to be there, and they wanted to have also some professional value. So what is happening in all of them, and this is something we select on, is that they have some kind of company visits, that they can talk to people who have already a career, and so get inspiration for maybe their own career choices. And and also if there's an academic part, it always needs to be like problem-based learning, hands-on learning for the students. And additionally to that, we provide logistical and administrative support. We try to make it as easy as possible, and I will really get to that point when we see the application process, and you will see how easy it is. I already talked about affordability, and of course, if you travel to France, you want to see some cultural things. So that's part of the mix. That's part of the cocktail. It can be different. It depends on the cities they're going to. It's not only Paris. France has much more to offer, but we know that Paris is something that attracts a lot of students, and and all of them are English speaking, so no French required for any of this. Any student who would, so everything, all the program is in English, and all the support and everything is in English to take away that barrier that we have identified as well. And beyond that, and that's something Karen from Connecticut was supposed also to talk about, we provide some institutional partnerships and international cooperation, but I'll get to that point later. Let's talk about really the boot camps. So the 4 we have this year, and then the 5th with Los Angeles and Paris as a special cooperation. The first one is called Female Business Founders. Of course, it's not only for girls, because it's a very important subject, and that also concerns everybody else. It's about gender equality, it's about how you can also identify your own stereotypes, and this is done in various ways, in going with site visits, additionally to that. It's going to happen in the north of France, and they also will do a small day in Paris, so that students can have a first visit of our capital, and it lasts for 2 weeks, from the end of May to the beginning of June. The second one is called Green Innovation. It's green innovation in industry sciences and for all. So it's about sustainability, but really linked to industry and how you can, how you change, or how the view on sustainability in industry has changed. This is going to happen, it's like 2 or 3 hours from Paris. So it's more a rural area, but they have a lot of different companies that are also in that area and who they will be working with. The region is Burgundy. You might know that for the wine. And there's also a beautiful castle they will visit, and really to get also this more cultural dimension of France. And then the 4th one is Mountains in a Changing World. And this one is special in the sense that they will not hear only about mountains in a classroom and through a film workshop, or it's a short film festival, but they will actually go hiking some days. It's a 3-week program, and they will take the time to really go into the mountains and to see how climate change has affected tourism there, how climate change has affected also questions of natural preservation, and we'll talk to the people actually doing these kind of jobs in the mountains. Additionally to that, I already mentioned the film festival, but they will also go to the museum of the major town and have other, yes. So here you can really see it's something intertwined that links earth sciences and climate change, but also history and architecture, because the way we build has to be adapted as well, and economic subjects as tourism. And this is also something that is really important for us, and all of those boot camps to make them accessible for students with a general basic knowledge. This is really designed for students in the first years of their higher education studies to get a deeper interest into the subject and to learn something about that. Then the last one is sustainable design. It's something, we're going to do it in Paris. And it's about the questions of, hey, what's actually all these things we're throwing away? What are we going to, what can we do about it? Can we upcycle them? Can we recycle them? What does this mean in terms of our economy? How does the whole system need to change? And all this from a design perspective. And of course, they plan for, I'm sorry, the traditional wine and cheese tasting. We know that wine might not be adapted for all of the students, and we will alert them that it's up to them to know the rules in their own country and their own culture. But the cheese tasting, if they're interested, is always nice. And the nice thing about this boot camp is it's going to happen during the 14th of July. It's like your 4th of July, just the French version of it, our national holiday, and it's a very nice day in Paris and celebrated in very nice ways, so they can actually go and see that. And finally, a very special one, because all of the 4 ones I have been mentioning until here, sustainable design, Mountains in a Changing World, green innovation, and female business founders, they are done by schools and higher education institutions in that region, and they are open to all of your students. The last one, Science and Technology for Sports, it's our 5th one, or 4+1, because this one is only open for students of Los Angeles Community College District. It's been a partnership that has been built between the city of Los Angeles and the city of Paris, who decided, hey, actually, we're both going to host the Olympic Games. Let's do something together and let's build a community around that. And they, both cities got really interested in doing that with community colleges. And so this program is designed again by Anne Plessy, and George is representing them today. And so here we're having really a STEM perspective on things. How is science used in sports? What is in biomechanics? We had I'm sorry, I hope that's the correct word, disabled person in sports, and she had to use a prosthesis to run, and she explained how that affected her life. But actually, she got really technical about it, like how do I have to adjust it, and how do I build a new prosthesis to go to the next Olympic Games, and talk about this with students. But it's also questions of air pollution, because of course that affects the sports as well. We just heard about maybe the Australian Opens. When the fires were around, there were some discussions about how that works out for the players. And of course, they also will have some cultural visits. So this is just an example, like how this can also scale up in a way, in a more regional cooperation. Any questions until here? Do you want more details on the program? Anything? Yes?
Are these 4 or 5 offered next year as well, or is it only just looking for things next year?
So what we, for now, what we've decided to do is to have a call each autumn and to change the content. The basic principles stay the same. Vocational training, cultural visits, everything in English. And so this we keep stable, but the contents change. And we're very happy to see, for instance, we have a boot camp from last year, and that was offered in Lyon. And they've, on urban sustainability, so transport and waste and these kind of things. And they actually decided to keep on going without our co-funding, but they keep on going with the same project, and which is something we really encourage. And because in the end, we're an embassy, we're not a third-party provider, so our aim is not to do this for 10 years or so. Our aim is we use these boot camps to get you an introduction to France, get an introduction to France for the students, but also for you as an institution, and then to figure out how can we take this long-term, how can you, if you want to, and it's not the case for everybody, you can just use the opportunity and that's it. But some of you might also be interested in building your own programs or getting on board and using programs of schools that have not been co-funded by us. Yeah.
And if I may add another dimension, we do change the venues every year, but at the same time, there is the idea, first of all, of maintaining some kind of balance between different types of topics. We have one which has to do with gender in very small companies, and this is one thing that was that could be added, is that the program in Le Havre specifically focuses on small-sized companies, because obviously, as you know, the question of gender is not addressed by Microsoft in the same way as by your local bodega or a company in which you have 5 or 10 people working. So that's an issue. And so we want to maintain some kind of balance. We also want to encourage universities, schools in France, in very different places, in different cities, with different focuses, to be more engaged with the United States. So we're hoping to maintain the same level of funding in order to maintain the same level number of students going every year. But obviously, the more applicants we have from France wanting to organize those boot camps, the better. But in the foreseeable future, the idea is that in 2021, 2022, you'll see approximately the same number of boot camps, and hopefully, if we are able to increase the funding, a larger number of boot camps in the same areas, adding some, and we really want to maintain a balance also between STEM and other fields. And we're also very, very interested in your feedback on as to where the needs may be.
Yeah, I just put back the map of France, so maybe just to give you a sense of where they are. So the Havre is going to be up here, because it's not working this way. There's one up here, then we have one in Paris, we're going to have one here, and then one down there in the Alps. And last year we had it here in Montpellier, and then in Lyon, and another one was here in Caen. So that is kind of to visualize also, like, here are community colleges from all over the country, from very different areas, and we want to have the same kind of diversity and showing the same kind of diversity in France. Yeah. Okay, so I'll give you a little bit more sense of how the application process works. We have 2 deadlines. One is February 17th. That's around the corner. And we know some students can't make it until that deadline. If they can, it's better. We encourage for that deadline. If not, we will accept applications until March 16th. For us, the first deadline helps us also to start preparing some students early and to give them, to really prepare them for their travel as early as March. What do students need to do? They need to submit an online form. One of the nicest forms I've ever seen. Basically, we ask them for their name, for their major. We ask for the nationality, but just to make sure, like, if they're not US students, if they have another nationality, then we can help with the visa process and advise on that. Otherwise we don't care about the nationality. So it's very basic. In the form, we ask them to which boot camp they want to go. They can choose up to 2. They have a first choice and a second choice. They can only choose one also. That's fine with us. Then we ask them to send us some documents, and that is transcript, can be the official one or the unofficial one. And we ask them to send a letter of motivation. In the letter of motivation, that might be the trickiest part, but we ask them, actually, why do you want to go there? Why are you interested in that program? And it should go beyond just, I like international travel. These are academic programs. So we want to hear from students. Did they understand the program? Have they read the program? Because sometimes we do get applications where we're not sure about this kind of point. And if they choose two boot camps in the form, then there should be also 2 letters of motivation, because the programs are not the same. So students might have different motivations, and we get that. And motivation can be based on their personal project and their professional project, and maybe they can tell us what they've already known about the subject, or why they think this will help them in their future. And then we ask also for a nomination by a community college. That is basically an email from you or a colleague in charge of advising or anything, and who would follow up a little bit on this. It's important for us because it's not an individual project. We want the institutions to be aware of students going abroad. And in the nomination, you just have to, it's basically, I nominate, send us the name and the first name, last name of the student. If you have several students going, feel free to rank them. No obligation, again, but if you feel we should consider one student more than another, you can do that. Fine with us. And this is it. This is all the application process. Then we have a jury, and normally kind of 2 weeks after the deadline, we're able to inform the students, at least unofficially, that they have been selected and that they can start preparing. And then they get an official letter that they have been selected, and in this official letter we explain where to take the planes to and these kind of things. And yes, and that's the part. Are there any questions about the application process?
$1,000 covers it all.
Yes, $1,000 for the program, and they have to pay for their own flight. So it's $1,000 plus airfare.
All meals are included?
3 meals per day. If they want a snack in between, woo, you made it on time. That's a perfect entrance. Yes, so it really, it's breakfast, lunch, dinner that is included. Go ahead, Karen.
In the presentation, you mentioned tuition fees are covered. Could you talk a bit about the credit that students receive?
Yes, credit. Very good point. I forgot about that. So all of these are award European credits. And so female business, green innovation, and sustainable design award for European credits. That translates more or less to 2 American credits. And then we have the Mountains in the Changing World. This one is taking 3 weeks, so it's a bit longer. So they afford 6 European credits. And we're always happy if community colleges are able to translate that back into their system. We have seen some that were able to do intercultural, like giving something like intercultural or whatever you have already in your files. Others have preferred not to do that because it would make it actually more costly for students, or would make it everything much more difficult. That's up to you, but of course we feel like if students can really transfer that back into your credits, that's more helpful. So this is also, if you have a question about that, for instance, I have been exchanging a lot of emails with Hillsborough Community College because they had some special conditions. They said, actually, yes, we would be able to do that, but we need the certificate to be in a sealed envelope, and not the student should get it. We can arrange these kind of things if you talk to us. And this is especially, if you have any other kinds of these nitty-gritty details, we understand them, and we're able to, not always, but most of the times we're able to arrange these kind of needs, and happy to do that. Anything else? Yes?
What was the website to apply?
Yes. The website to apply is called French Higher Education, and then but basically if you look on Google for French Higher Education and then boot camps, that's the first thing you find. And so here you have the website. we have on the website, we have a detailed description. Oh, you can't see it. Oh, interesting. Wait a second. I think I have to leave this one first. There we go. So that's our website, French Higher Education. Wayne is doing a wonderful job. Yeah, so on the website, now it's funny for me because I don't see it on my screen. Okay, on the website we have, of course, the detailed programs for each of one. So you have like a daily one, what's happening on day one, what's happening on day two, and all these kind of things behind the links here. And then you have also how to apply. You find the link to the form. And my colleague Mathilde, who's also working with Vincent and me, she is doing all the operational management of it. You have the deadlines again. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Now I have to figure out how to go back to the presentation. There we are. Any other question? If not, I'll leave the floor to Karen.
Oh, thank you.
And here are your slides.
Okay, thanks. Well, I finally am here, and I apologize for being late. It's been crazy. I had to go through Charlotte. I didn't even know if I was ever going to get here, period. So it's a pleasure for me to be able to give you an update on what Connecticut is doing. We were one of the first community colleges to participate in the boot camp, and it's been a fabulous experience. So before I talk about the boot camp specifically, I wanted to talk a little bit about an initiative in Connecticut we have called CLICS. Nancy Ruther, who rescued me from roaming around trade winds today, because I'm actually at the Rumfish too, so they even put me at a, maybe that was a sign right there. So I saw the fish as I tried to find where I was going this morning. But anyway, she actually is the principal of a company called Gazelle International, and before that she worked with Yale, and she was the one who approached the community college that I am actually located at, to say, geez, community colleges, you don't do anything international, and she ran all the international programs at Yale. So she clicked with our president at the time, who I do a lot of National Science Foundation grants. I run a center that's focused on manufacturing education, technology education, and I've been doing it for quite a while. I'm a chemist by education. And my president pulled me in, because anytime there's something that's innovative, out of the box, or grant related, she's like, Karen, you're the one who could make this happen. So what Nancy started with this is she connected us with the French embassy, and the rest is history. But with that being said, she also thought it would be nice to do some online faculty exchange, because we all know the challenge is money. So yes, students want to go abroad, faculty would like to go abroad, but how do you get there if you don't have the resources? And with budgets being tighter and tighter, it becomes more and more of a challenge. And actually tomorrow we have a presentation that'll be even more focused on CLICS, so I would encourage you to go there. But since we got that started, what we've been able to do was, she also connected us with the French embassy, and we found out that they had these $20,000 grants that you could apply for, and that you could use again for student mobility. So what that means is that we could use that to pay for our students to go to France. So we applied and received, I don't know if it was one of the first rounds of funding, but in 2017, we received a funding, the $20,000. And then in the following year, our College of Technology, which is a consortium of all 12 community colleges in Connecticut, also had applied the following year and received the funding as well. Well, so that helped us quite a bit in terms of literally kickstarting, trying to arrange for our students to attend some of the boot camps. So just quickly, in 2016-17 was kind of like our year of developing what we were going to do, how we were going to do this. So we also took a look at ways of collaborating with the N+I, and I see George here because they were great. And that was actually our first boot camp, which we just loved in many, many ways. And also we were in the process, I don't know, these things are crooked. It's kind of weird. I don't know, that's the story of my life this morning. But we also designed some workshops for faculty to really help them with how do you work online with other faculty, in this case with partners in France. So basically, here's just, I'm going to just do this in the essence of time because it's just talking again about the cliques themselves. So cliques basically was really, and it's been working fabulous right now. We have faculty who literally are assigned or work with faculty in France, and they develop modules and they teach them online with their students. Roughly could be anywhere from 4 weeks to 8 weeks. And they literally, you know, it's a synchronous modules. So they have to come up with a time that the two classes can actually get on Skype or, you know, some platform that allows them to interact with each other. And keep in mind, Connecticut's a 6-hour time difference. So it's a little bit of a challenge to find out like when that common time can be, but we're doing it and it's working great. So anyway, the fall of 2019, we actually did one with Professor Carrie Ann Garside, who teaches color theory, and she partnered with the IUT in Cachan. And this actually is showing their graduation, which we did online, and actually had our administration and the administration from IUT there, and they all got certificates, and it was just, you know, a real testimony that this works in terms of being able to do this online type of modules. So our first students that we sent abroad, and I always say, you know, we sent 8 students and we got back very different 8 students. Sometimes I've had, you know, administrators go, what do you mean you left them there? And I was like, well, not quite, but they came back very, very different in terms of just their awareness of just the world. I always think it's just amazing. A lot of our students, if you're from community colleges, you know very well, they don't even sometimes get out of their own state. In our case, sometimes they don't even get out of their own little cities or towns. Connecticut's very diverse from the perspective of, we have very rural parts of Connecticut. We have 2 of the poorest cities in the United States, Bridgeport and Hartford. You know, and then we have the Gold Coast. We're not going to talk about them, but so that's the part of Connecticut that's all along New York, very wealthy individuals. But we have a lot of diversity in terms of ethnicity as well. And from my background, I actually run an engineering technology pathway program. I'm always looking at gender as well in terms of how do we increase that underrepresented population of students who aren't pursuing STEM, in particular in my case, engineering and technology. So anyway, we went, basically, this was for 10 days from May 23rd to June 1st. And we went to Paris, Lannion, and Rennes. At that time, we did have a CLICS module or collaboration going on. So we actually met with the faculty from Lannion who were involved in that. So that was kind of nice. The students actually met other students. However, because of the timing, the students in France had already been off. I think they're on apprenticeships or something. So their actual students that they were working with online were not available. But that's great because they met a whole other group and they clicked. I love the acronym because it seems to work in so many ways in terms of how we describe what we're doing. So in year 2, our Connecticut Community College students attended the Normandy Disruptors Boot Camp. That was June 17th through June 29th. We had 5 Connecticut community colleges who attended and 1 faculty. And then we also, this is just talking a little bit more about the boot camps. If you just want to jump down to the bottom, June 2017, we had 4 Connecticut students that went to one of the boot camps. In the second year, we had just 1, and last year we had 2. And we're working on this year on a real, I want to say, larger number of students, more so because of the fact that we also have these CLIC modules where it even makes it even more, I think, you know, of a reason why they want to go and they want to meet these other students. So I was listening to some of the questions. One of the things I wanted to mention to you is that I don't know, so for us personally, our students have been able to get college credit. So what we've done is they can either apply for a 2-credit independent study, and with that, we make them, they have to document their experience. They do journals, they do a pre-assessment, a post-assessment, and then throughout the actual 14 days that they're there, they have to make sure that they're actually, we do these different evaluation forms. So we have something that we can use as our assessment to show, did this make a difference? And we look at it not only in terms of just international global awareness, but because these have a technology or a discipline-focused component, we also look at what did they learn. Because again, if we're given academic credit, we have to somehow come up with outcomes that our colleagues are going to say, yes, that is worthy of higher education college credit. The other thing I wanted to point out, if you have any NSF Advanced Technology Education funding, there is a Dear Colleague letter out there right now where you can apply for up to $120,000 to do international travel. And so since we were doing this work with France, we applied last summer and we did receive that. So we're right now in trying to get together what that event, or I shouldn't say event, but what that student trans mobility is going to be. And working with George, working with Katrin to try to see what we're going to put in place probably this summer. We were trying to do it in December, and it was crazy with the strikes and stuff. It just got too crazy. So literally, I even had a trip planned, and it just was like, I don't know if you were following what was going on in the French government, but everything just kind of was put on a halt. But anyway, I just wanted to mention that if you don't have an existing ATE grant, you cannot apply for this. But if you do, please, if you want me to help you in any way, I will do that. So just in kind of conclusion, I just wanted to say that this has been an unbelievable experience for myself, for my students, and for our faculty. We can't thank the French Embassy enough for, putting this initiative in place and for their real, wisdom and foresight in seeing the value this has for Connecticut's community colleges, but for community colleges throughout the United States. And when Katrin says that they will do whatever they can to help you, they do. We had a student who, had an issue with needing a visa because she was not a U.S. citizen, and they bent over backwards and got it for her. She had to go to New York a couple, I think 2 times or whatever, but I didn't think she was ever going to get it. I was like, just forget it. You're too late. And the French Embassy was amazing in terms of just what they did to make that happen. So I don't know if you have questions for me. I've been there, done that, and I'm doing it. So if there's anything you can think of that you saw as a challenge. Yes, Wayne. Hey.
You're welcome. Glad you made it. You mentioned ATI funding. Could you mention any other types of funding that?
Oh, good. Thank you. So the other thing you should look at is Gilman. One of the things the French Embassy has done, which has also been great, is Gilman is actual funding that is available from the federal government, and it's for international travel. I think the deadline, there's a second deadline, so I think you can still apply. The challenge there is, in the French Embassy, again, responded to this, it has to be 14 days or longer. And when you did your first boot camps, they were 10. And we were like, hey guys, if you can change it to 14, our students can apply, for this federal funding for international experiences. So I just wanted to give you a heads up on that. I think you have to be Perkins eligible. I'm pretty positive that. So, that might change a little bit who can apply, but I would strongly suggest take a look at that. Google it. It's called Gilman. And again, it's basically focused on, believe it or not, I didn't even know these things existed. So this has been like a fabulous experience for me. It's like there's actual federal funding to support, students to travel abroad, that, students can apply for. It's like, that's why I guess you go to these conferences, right? Because sometimes these are the things the little nuggets you take back home that really are really very valuable. I think that's the only, can you think of anything else that I might be missing? So one thing I will mention to you,
If I can add one thing about the Gilman program, which is important, is also the fact that the French Embassy has just signed with the State Department an agreement in
Okay.
which we're funding Gilman directly. So there is some Gilman funding that's specifically targeted on France, which comes in addition to the regular Gilman funding. So that's something else that you
Yeah, that's
know.
new. That's great. That's great.
And when we had our conversations with the State Department about the Gilman program, basically the students who are eligible for Pell Grants here in the U.S. would be eligible for the Gilman program.
Right. Okay, great.
In abroad. So this is really the kind of program that we encourage. And to pick up on what Karen just said, I want to add the fact that it's typically what they did at Connecticut is what we would encourage the community colleges that are represented here and the institutions that host the boot camps in France, which is to use some of our other programs, which are foundational or structural programs like the Transatlantic Mobility Program, to design agreements or cooperation systems, and you can apply for the TMP scholarships, which will provide you up to $20,000 to fund a program which will bring
Right.
students to the U.S. Or students to France on either side of the pond.
So one other comment I'll make is that it's like, I think this is really a good testimony to why these collaborations work so well. You know, we now have faculty that are working with faculty that they've met, you know, when they went over to France, and we've been part of an Erasmus proposal that is now, I think this is our third time, that again is being submitted by France's IUTs, and they invited us to be a partner in that. We were fairly competitive last year, so they say the third time's a charm, so we're hoping that they will get it at this time. But that particular grant is a grant that will be awarded to the France institutions, and one component of that is it'll provide for travel for the France faculty to come to the United States. And in the end of March, we have some faculty coming to Connecticut, and Katrin is actually partially supporting for them to visit. And they were involved in our CLIX modules, and we actually have had visitors several times the past year. So this is more than just go for 2 weeks, 14 days, or whatever to a boot camp. This is a lifelong relationship, and I see this. It's already very sustainable, whether we have any additional money or not. So I can't say, I've done many things in my career, in my life, and I have to say this is right at the top in terms of being the most rewarding and without a doubt something that is lifelong. So with that, I think I will end my comments. And again, I'll be hopefully around the next day or two. So please stop and see me and come to our presentation tomorrow too. Thank you.
Yes. So for all of those who are now afraid of commitment, you don't have to. We also are happy if you just say, okay, I want to try this out. Let me send one student or two. And actually, I wanted to mention this because so what we have sometimes, for instance, that's what Kirkwood is doing, and that what Connecticut is doing now is independent travel. Students who might be a little bit more, sure of themselves, self-confident, and they want to try this out, independent travel, and we're happy to have them. But also in other cases, for instance, Lone Star always sends the faculty with the boot camps, and we also make that happen. So, but again, if you wanna, if that's a condition for you, if you say actually, I would be much more comfortable if I can send a faculty with it, my students, then please be in touch with us. And basically, for the faculty, it's they have to do the same process as the students, in the sense that if they go to the online form, they can click I'm a faculty or community college representative, and then give us the details, and then they also send us a motivation letter saying, okay, I'm going there to see what's happening. I need to be there because my students need to be there, all these kind of things. So we really tried to make it usable for you, and this is also why it's important for me to get the feedback from you and to hear maybe also why it's not working, why you think this is not relevant for you. And so for us, this is a way to give you and your students a taste of France, an idea of France, and whatever way you would need to take it, we would be happy to hear about it. And then, and for those who are have like a general or more international relations strategy or projects, it's nice to see also how that articulates with everything going around. Are there any other questions? Yes.
I did have a question, but first I want to make sure of something. You have to be 18 to be part of these boot camps, right? Because otherwise it makes it very difficult for us if you're not 18. Yeah, because I have a very limited experience with community colleges. I've only been here for one term, but from my experience and from what I've heard from different faculty, they're saying there's a growing early college population, and my entire French class is early college students, and since they're not 18, and none of them would be interested, but they can be part of that program. So do you have anything aimed towards early college students?
I mean, that's a very specific population, so...
It's most of our students, really. I mean, from my experience with the class...
Yeah, but overall at the community colleges...
I don't know about other community colleges. I know in mine...
The average community college student is, I think, 26 and full-time students and 29 and part-time students or something like that. So, I mean, I do get this need, but maybe when they're 17, they can apply next year when they're 18. That's the kind of solution we're always trying to find.
Let's put it this way. It's not that we don't want to. It's not that it's not a population that we would like to come to France. It's simply a visa issue and an issue of legal responsibility. I mean, normally you don't need a visa to travel to France if you're staying less than 90 days. But if you're under 18, then there are special procedures, and so you can't travel alone, or you may travel alone, but then you have to have a person responsible in France. So it's really the visa and legal issues that complicate the matter, not at all the colleges or universities or schools that would host the students. So it's more taking it up with our administrative authorities than anything else.
Yeah.
Katrin, I think you probably mentioned this, but how long following the submission of the application will the student know if they've been selected?
We try to 2 weeks. Try to keep it short. At least in an unofficial email. The official letter might take a little bit longer, but yes.
Going back to his question, so the minimum age is 18, but is there a maximum age?
We had a participant who was 45, worked out as well, and sometimes it can be a little bit surprising for the French institutions. I don't want to hide that, but then we advocate and we explain how it is, and actually in the end they were very happy with that participant. So we can build on this experience as well on the French side. Yeah. Another question? Okay. I mean, then you're ready to go for next coffee. But before you leave, Wayne has another question.
No, I just wanted to mention you are in the exhibit hall as well as Gilman.
Yes, we are very good. Thank you, Wayne. What would I do without him? So we are in the exhibit hall, and I also, sorry, Laurent, I wanted to mention there's another French colleague, Laurent, and I already mentioned the session here. Okay, so Laurent, he's from a French institution, and they built a boot camp, and it's called Made in France. It's not part of this program, but the quality is very similar, and it's a very interesting program, and it's also Gilman eligible. So the finance is not exactly the same, but it's a bit more, but it's still very interesting. So feel free to talk to Laurent. And actually, before you leave the room, I wanted to invite you to come up and give me your business cards. So even if you don't send students this year, then I can keep you up to date on what's happening in the next year and anything like that. So I would really appreciate that. And of course, I'll be happy to hand out my business cards as well. Nancy?
And my colleague Alexa Jeffers here has samples, a page of case studies of the CLIck projects we've done that's a little more readable than what Karen was able to cram onto the slide.
Yeah.
So they'll be at the back of the room where she can pass them around.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Karen. I know this was not an easy one, so I very much appreciated your effort to come here. And thank you all for being here at 8 a.m. in the morning. Thank you so much.